Warm welcome to Diski Talk with Luyolo. If you're tuning in for the very first time, I do ask that you please subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you've been a part of this journey, I hope you thoroughly enjoy this episode. So, on today's episode, I discuss all things Dstv Premiership action as I have a tactical pre-match analysis of Mamelodi Sundowns versus Kaizer Chiefs. However, before we get into it, I'd like to announce that we have partnered with Classic Shirts at A. So I'm currently wearing one of those classic shirts. So what you can do then is head over to the site, which is classicshirts.co.za, and you can pick any of your favorite jerseys, and you can use the Diski Talk with Luyolo code, which is Diski Talk 10. So it is one word, Diski Talk 10, so that is DISKI, and then capital T, and then ALK, then 10. So 10 being the numerals, so one word, Diski Talk 10, and then you can get yourself a discount on any of your favorite jerseys. So please do check them out as like their name, classic shirts. So they've got really beautiful classic shirts. You can have a look at national team jerseys, club jerseys. They also have retro jerseys on there as well. And the quality and the texture, I know you can't feel it, but really, really nice texture and really, really nice quality. Please do go and check it out. So let's get into today's episode then, which is a tactical pre-match analysis of Mamelodi Sundowns versus Kaizer Chiefs. So when you do have a look at it then, these are two teams then that have the same record with regards to the matches played. So Mamelodi Sundowns have played 2 games and Kaizer Chiefs have played 2 games as well. Mamelodi Sundowns have won 1 and then they've lost 1. With Kaizer Chiefs, they've won 1 and they've lost 1 as well. With Mamelodi Sundowns, they did lose against TS Galaxy in the past couple of days, and when you do have a look at Kaizer Chiefs, they lost against Royal AM within the opening round, and then when you have a look at Mamelodi Sundowns, they won against Cape Town City within the opening round, and then Kaizer Chiefs did manage then to win 3-0 against Maritzburg United in the past couple of days as well. So when you do have a look at it then, the blue side will represent Mamelodi Sundowns and then the red side will represent Kaizer Chiefs. So when you do have a look at it then, we will start with Mamelodi Sundowns. So when you do have a look at Mamelodi Sundowns then, what has been rather interesting is the shape that they've played with. So Mamelodi Sundowns then have changed their shape. So they do play with a 4-4-2 diamond, and as a standard formation, that's what it would look like. However, when they do then find themselves within the opposition half with regards to their offensive scheme, it would take a different shape. And we've seen them then adapt very different shapes at times. So against Cape Town City, what you did see then was a ball side fullback would look to offer the width, and then the opposite fullback would look to invert in that situation. So a lot of the times it would look somewhat of a 3-3-4 offensive scheme or a 3-2-5 offensive scheme. Against TS Galaxy, we did see that change where the 2 fullbacks did look to invert within the half spaces, and that offensive scheme then went to a 2-3-5. Within the second half, they did change it because it just did not work, where then they moved the fullbacks into their natural wide positions. So this Mamelodi Sundowns side have been very, very experimental, and I think in both games, Mamelodi Sundowns haven't been impressive, as in certain phases of both games, where against Cape Town City and TS Galaxy, they really have struggled with regards to then imposing themselves. So they've kept the lion's share of possession, but they haven't really been able to impose themselves and penetrate into the final third and look as free and as fluid as they normally would. However, let's have a look at the personnel, and I will then also break down some of those offensive schemes and their defensive defensive schemes as well. So when you do have a look at it then, they're in goals. They have been going with Ronan Williams, who will probably start going into this encounter against Kaizer Chiefs. And then at left back, they have been going with Aubrey Mudiba. And then as the left-sided centre-back, the last time out, they did go with Brian Onyango. And then as the right-sided centre-back, they did go with Rushin Duruk. And then as the right-back, they have been going with Mudau. So when you do have a look at it then, that would be the back four for this Mamelodi Sundowns side. Moving on then, right along within the heart of midfield, as a six, they'd go with Utebogo Mokoena. On the left side of the diamond, they would go with Hashim Domingo. On the right side of the diamond, they'd go with Neo Mayema. And then at the top of the diamond, they would go with Themba Zwane, who does then play as the number 10 and as the free role for this Mamelodi Sundowns side. And then against Cape Town City, what was interesting is that Kutumela did start on the right-hand side, and then you had Peter Shalile starting on the left-hand side. However, against TS Galaxy, they did swap, where then you did see Kutumela starting on the left-hand side, and then you did see Peter Shalile starting on the right-hand side. So let's then have a look at Mamelodi Sundowns with regards to their offensive scheme and them in possession and what they would look like. So against TS Galaxy then, what was very interesting is that in the first half, this is the shape that they went to. So what they did then was they went with a 3-2-5 offensive scheme, and which then is an offensive scheme which a lot of people are not really used to, especially in South Africa, when you consider the fact that both the fullbacks were inverted into the two half spaces. So that's the left-sided half space and then the right-sided half space. So what you did see then was this 2-3-5 offensive scheme. So you had Kutumela looking to start in that left wide channel, looking to offer the width on the left-hand side. Peter Shalile on the right-hand side, looking to offer the width. However, what you would see is that they would also then be looking then to also make runs into the box. So they'd start off in these wide, unorthodox pockets of space, but then look to come in. And then you did have Themba Zwane, you had Hashim Domingo, and then you had Mayema, and then you had Aubrey Mudiba, and then you had Mudau, and then you had Mokoena there, who then plays a 6. And then you had Brian Onyango, and then you had Rushin Duruk. So against TS Galaxy, this was the offensive scheme that we saw from Mamelodi Sundowns within the first half. However, this offensive scheme didn't work, as a lot of the times what we did see then is that their rest defense was quite poor, and it left Mamelodi Sundowns exposed, especially when it comes then to those offensive transitions and teams and TS Galaxy being able to hit them successfully on the counter attack, because a lot of the times they'd be disorientated and disorganized, and it would take just literally one ball and TS Galaxy were out, you know. And when you consider the fact that they are coming up against a Kaizer Chiefs side then that has Dolly, Biliat, and Dupri as well, who've got a lot of speed, and it is a fluid, fast front three. If Mamelodi Sundowns' rest defense isn't organized and isn't sorted out, then they could get punished against that front three. But what we did see in the second half then is that they did look to change this offensive scheme, because it really wasn't working, as at times we'd even see wide rotation. So sometimes then you would see on the left-hand side, you would see Mudiba looking to offer the width. You would see Hashim Domingo a bit deeper, and then Kutumela would come in. On the right-hand side, you'd see the same between the three, where then sometimes Mayema would look to drop a bit deeper. You'd have Shalile there, and then you'd have Mudau there. But this offensive scheme didn't work, especially then when you have a look at the two fullbacks within those half spaces. And the reason why it didn't work then is because with Mudau isn't well adept with regards to half space occupation. He isn't as comfortable on the ball. So in that pocket of space, when you've got Mudau there, he isn't so comfortable in that pocket of space, because there's a lot of traffic within the heart of midfield, and it requires a lot of game intelligence and a lot of ability then with regards to manipulating the ball within those deep, tight pockets of space. But Mudau then is a lot more efficient within the wide channel. So if Mudau's in the wide channel, he is a lot more efficient, as we do know that he can break forward and look to play those crosses within the box. You know, from time to time, he does tend to deliver a very good ball into the box. did see that he did struggle a bit on that front against TS Galaxy, but generally he does tend to deliver very good balls into the box, and his recovery as well. And when you do have a look at Mudau, when he does play within that wide channel, he is a lot more effective. With regards to inverting, I'd say that Mudiba is a lot better at this than Mudau, because then with Mudiba is that he's naturally an offensive-minded player, a player then who's very comfortable within those tight pockets of space with regards to how he's looking then to manipulate the ball and how then he's looking to create chances. We've seen him then be able to create chances from this half space. We've seen him then last season against Sekhukhune, he scored a beautiful goal from that pocket of space. So he's a lot more well adept. But even then against TS Galaxy, because of how TS Galaxy was so organized, it didn't work. So it was better suited with Mudiba looking then to go wide. And I think to a certain degree, when you do have a look at these Mamelodi Sundowns fullbacks, I think they look a lot better in the wide positions, especially when you look at Mudau. Mudiba, yes, he can invert, but if the opposition then is very organized and very compact, it does become difficult for him to operate within that half space, especially considering then that his more creative players like Hashim Domingo, Zwane would tend to drift into that pocket of space. So then it is much better than if he does look to actually offer the width and then allow then the more creative and the more offensive-minded players then to actually look to overload the central pockets of space further up, closer to the box, even within the half space as well. So it looks better when it's like that if they're playing against a team that is very compact from a defensive perspective and tactically organized. So when you look at Mamelodi Sundowns then, that is more or less the offensive scheme. What we do know then is that it could also go to somewhat of a 2-2-6 shape whenever then they are looking to add numbers forward. But what I think against Kaizer Chiefs it will be then is that they'll be cautious. So ball side, fullback will look to offer the width, and then far side fullback will look to actually tuck in to make it a 3, and then you'll have your 2 in there. So to ensure then that they've got adequate rest defense with regards to preparing then for the offensive transition and the counter attack from Kaizer Chiefs. And I think it's better if they're a bit more cautious, especially then when you consider the type of players that Kaizer Chiefs have and the speed that Kaizer Chiefs have as well. So when you do look at it then, when they are then trying to ensure that they are able to have sufficient cover, I think that's the type of shape they would be looking to take up, and they won't push as many numbers and they won't commit as many numbers as possible. However, when you do have a look at this Mamelodi Sundowns side, when you do have a look then at the key players, so when you have a look at it then, we will start then with Themba Zwane. So when you look at Themba Zwane, this is their playmaker. This is a player then who is quite key, and he does offer this Mamelodi Sundowns side that qualitative and positional superiority, especially then with regards to how he looks to position himself in between the lines, and how then he's looking then to also break into the box, as this is a player then who can score goals. He's got the extra pass and he can create goals as well. However, he hasn't had a good start to the season, because even against Cape Town City, as much as he did get the goal, but he wasn't as influential. Even against TS Galaxy, he really struggled then to penetrate that low block. So coming up into this encounter then, it will be key that Themba Zwane is on song, as this is their talisman. So a lot of the times then when Themba Zwane isn't in the game, Sundowns do tend to struggle to get into the game. They do tend to struggle to be fluid. They do tend to struggle then to create those chances and to play that type of football that you would know that Sundowns would play. So when you do have a look at Themba Zwane, he will be quite key in that regard, with regards then to how then he looks to move laterally in between the lines. When he's looking then to get that ball, sometimes he does tend to drop deep, because he does then have the free roll within this side to roam around for this Mamelodi Sundowns side, with regards to looking then to create those opportunities for this Mamelodi Sundowns side. However, you then also have Peter Shalile, who's also who's also struggled, and I think it's going to be key for his confidence for him to look to get a goal, especially then in such a big match against Kaizer Chiefs. And also then when you have a look then at the heart of midfield. So Mayama has been playing deep as an 8, and I think that he has struggled within this role, because Mayama then, when you do look at him, Mayama is better suited as a final third player, as opposed to him playing deep as a number 8, because whenever Sundowns do look to build up, he becomes key then in offering them that ability then to take the ball from build-up phase, work it into consolidation, and work it into the final third. Mayama then does tend to look a lot better then in these pockets of spaces and looking to break into the box, as he also has an eye for goal. But for the Sundown side, he's been playing as an 8 within that diamond shape on the right-hand side, and I think he has struggled. And there are better players who are suited for that, I mean, you do have Nkulisi, who can play as an 8. You do have Mbule as well, who I think would be much better in that position as well. So those are the options that they could look to go for, as we do know that Mamelodi Sundowns have so much quality. I mean, there's also Nasir, who did come on against TS Galaxy, who did then prove that he is quite the creative player, and he can be quite influential for this Mamelodi Sundowns side. You do know that they've got Kapinga as well. There is Jali, who can start within the heart of midfield as well. There is Mkulisi, like I mentioned. So there is so much quality for this Mamelodi Sundowns side. It's just going to be very interesting with regards to which tactics do they deploy against Kaizer Chiefs. However, without the ball, what would they look like? As we do know that Mamelodi Sundowns do look to institute a high press. So when you do have a look at it then, and how they'll be looking to press then, pretty much then with a 4-4-2 diamond, and ensuring that Kaizer Chiefs aren't able to build up from the back, as we do know that Kaizer Chiefs then are looking to build up from the back. So what you will see then is that this is more or less the shape that Mamelodi Sundowns could look to press with. So that is a narrow 4-4-2 diamond. So for example, if Kaizer Chiefs are looking to start the ball from the back there, and the ball is with the right-sided centre-back, which will be most likely Ngezan, you would have, let's say Shalile starts on the left, you would have Shalile looking then to go engage, you'd have Kutumela looking then to ensure that he occupies Zita, and then you'd have Tembazwane, who would be looking then to occupy most likely Yusuf Mart. So that is somewhat of the shape that they could look to press with regard to their 4-4-2 diamond, and if then you see for example, the ball going wide, what you would then tend to see is that sort of the left-sided midfielder within the diamond would be looking to engage, and then they would be looking to sort of shift across. You'd see something like that, and vice versa then on the right-hand side. And without the ball, when they do sit within their own half, it would also then be a 4-4-2 diamond shape. However, we do know that this Mamelodi Sundowns side could very well change how they go about things, especially considering then that they are coming up against a Kaizer Chiefs side that do have a lot of speed. So this Mamelodi Sundowns could look to change the shape, but more or less that's what Mamelodi Sundowns have been doing, and that's what they could potentially go with. However, let's move on right along then, and let's have a look at Kaizer Chiefs. So when you do have a look at this Kaizer Chiefs side, we do know that Arthur Zwane is at the helm, and so far he's lost one and he's won one as well. However, let's have a look at how they have been playing. So with Arthur Zwane then, he has been going with a 4-3-3. So what we have seen then is that he's gone with 2-8s most of the time. At times within the heart of midfield, that midfield 3 has rotated at times with regards to who would occupy the position as the lone pivot, but most of the time it's been Yusuf Mart there, and then the 2-8s have been Sitebe, and then it's also been Cole within the Royal AM game, and then it was also Matlo as well against Maritzburg United. However, we also then did see them go to a 4-2-3-1 shape when Matlo did limp off, and then we saw Nkosimpile Ngobo there. So that is a shape that they could also go with against Mamelodi Sundowns, but because it is against Mamelodi Sundowns, they could also look to throw caution to the wind and go with sort of 2 number 8s like that, where then you know that it is then a hard-working midfield three, and then maybe look to introduce Nkosimpile Ngcobo a lot later with regards to him then being able to impact and influence the game from a creative perspective. However, let's have a look at the personnel that Arthur Zwane could potentially go with. So when you do have a look at this Kaizer Chiefs side, then in goals, you will have Bruce in goals. As the right-sided centre-back, you will have Ngezane. And then as the left-sided centre-back, you will have Uzita Macheke. And then as the right-back, they did go with Blom against Royal AM. Against Maritzburg United, we did see them start with Solomons. However, I do think that they will start with Blom as the right back, especially considering his experience and that he's a lot more solid from a defensive perspective. And I think he could offer that defensive stability, because with Solomons, what you do know is that he does offer you a lot going forward with regards to his speed, but defensively, I would say that at times he does tend to get his body orientation wrong and his positioning wrong as well. So I think against a game like Sundowns and the type of quality and the type of players that Sundowns have, you would most likely go with Blom. And then as the left back, you will most likely have Reeve Frosler. Moving on then right along within the heart of midfield, you've got Yusuf Mart, you've got Sitebe, and then you could have Matlo there, depending on if he does recover. If not Matlo, you could have Cole Alexander. That's if Arthur Zwane does look to go with a much more robust, hard-working midfield three, because then you know that you've got Mart, who works very hard, who will cover a lot of ground. You've got Sitebe, who goes box to box, who will also cover a lot of ground. And then you could have a third in there, especially then when if Kaizer Chiefs are looking to nullify Mamelodi Sundowns then from the midfield and from a central perspective with regards to them looking to institute those overloads that they normally would. And or you could see a double pivot then and then have Nkosimpile Ngcobo there. So it could be a 4-3-3 or it could be a 4-2-3-1. So you could have Nkosimpile Ngcobo there. And then as the right wing, you have Keegan Dolly. Up front, you have Kama Billiat, who has been playing then as the focal point. And then you could have Dupree there. However, what's interesting then to note about this front three is that it is a fluid, fast front three. So what they do is they interchange, and pop up within different pockets of space. And their spatial occupation is quite dynamic in the sense that you can see sometimes Keegan Dolly popping up central. You'd see then maybe Billiat coming off the left, Dupree coming off the right. But the standard approach would be Kama Billiat coming central, Dupree looking to come off the left, Keegan Dolly looking to come off the right. So that is what then you could see and expect from this front three. But let's have a look at their offensive scheme then. So within Mamelodi Sundowns half, what you could see is that ball side fullback. So let's say you've got Blom there, and he looks then to offer the width. What you do see is that with this front three, they tend to become narrow, especially when the ball is wide, as they will be obviously be looking to attack the box. So what you do see then with regards to their offensive scheme is that you do tend to see somewhat of that shape, where then far side fullback would be looking to invert. So you'd have Frosler there, you'd have Kwinika, and then you'd have Ngezane. And then you could have the double pivot of Yusuf Mart and Sitebe. And then you could have Nkosimpile Ngcobo, who could also be looking to creep in and add numbers. So it would look somewhat like that, where then you are looking at a 3-2-5 offensive scheme, at times somewhat of a 3-3-4 offensive scheme with regards to how they're looking to go about things. If the ball then is on the left-hand side, then what you would see is that ball side, fullback would be looking to offer the width, and then far side fullback would be looking then to invert and make sure then that they keep their defensive discipline within that deep pocket of space, looking then to ensure that they keep the tactical shape. That would then be Blom, or it could be Solomons if he does start. So that's what you can expect then from Kaizer Chiefs with regards to their offensive scheme within Mamelodi Sundowns half. The difference with them is that you're not going to see both fullbacks looking to offer the width, because that is a bit too open and that is a bit too expansive. And also when you do have a look at this Mamelodi Sundowns side, as much as they are a side that prize themselves with regards to keeping ball possession and being quite influential in that regard, but they also have the speed to hurt any team then with offensive transitions. transitions, and then being able then to successfully counter-attack. So when you have a look at it then, that is Kaizer Chiefs. It would be quite conservative from that perspective. And then without the ball, what would they look like? So we have seen Kaizer Chiefs that they are looking to press, and I do think that they will be looking to press this Mamelodi Sundowns side and ensure then that they are able to destabilize them. So what Kaizer Chiefs have done then is that at times, what you have seen then is that they would press with a very narrow 4-3-3 as they would be ensuring then. So when you do then press with a narrow 2 or a narrow 3, what you are trying to do then is ensure that you block the passing lanes and the passing channels within the heart of midfield. So the cover shadow becomes quite key in this regard, because what you are trying to do then, especially because they build up, they play with the diamond. So what you would see then is Kama Biliat would be ensuring that he is trying to block Tebogo Mokoena from looking to build up, and then you would most likely see Keegan Dolly there, ensuring then that he can get as close as possible to this centre back, and then you would see Dupree there. So that is the picture that you would see, and the cover shadow then does ensure that that ball into midfield isn't as easy because that channel is being blocked. If it's on this side, you'd see a similar thing. But what you also see from Kaizer Chiefs is that sometimes they do look to press with the 2. So when they do look to press with the 2, it does then become somewhat of a narrow 4-4-2. So for example, you'd see something like that, where then one of the midfielders, for example, would be looking to join Biliat with regards to pressing, and then you would have you'd have Dolly there, you'd have Dupree there. So it would look somewhat like that with regards to how they're looking to press. But overall then, when you do have a look at it then, with regards to who I think will be quite a key player coming up into this encounter for Kaizer Chiefs, when you look at the heart of midfield, I think Siteb and Yusuf Mar will be quite key, especially when you consider the amount of work that they'll have to go through and the amount of work that they'll put in. And when you look at them having to ensure that they're able to combat within the heart of midfield, they're able then to ensure that they can contribute towards Kaizer Chiefs looking then to win this game from an offensive and from a defensive perspective, because they won't just be key then with regards to them sitting deep, but also then with regards to them trying to put their foot on the ball, trying to play, trying then to also then ensure that they can look to offer that energy going forward, because we do know that Sitebe does go to box. Mart can offer you that as well, but he does tend to sit a bit deeper for this Kaizer Chiefs side, and more or less that's what you're looking at. If Nkosimpile Ngcobo doesn't start, I think he could be quite key with regards to how he comes on to look to change the game. Also then when you look at this front three, especially considering then that Kaizer Chiefs could be looking then to sit deep, because I do see Mamelodi Sundowns keeping more ball possession, and what you could see then is somewhat of this picture where you see Mamelodi Sundowns really pushed up with regards to their offensive scheme. So this is the picture that I think we will see on Saturday. So I think it will be a bit more conservative, where the fullback does tuck in. So I think this is somewhat of the picture that you could potentially see, and this picture then allows that Kaizer Chiefs front three in Dolly, Kama Biliat and Dupree so much space in here. And that is space that they could look to utilize then with offensive transitions and counter attacks as well. However, we do know that Kaizer Chiefs then also do have Gaugelo Sikhota, who can always come off the bench and make an impact. They do have Umduduzi Shabalala, who came off the bench, also then was able to make an impact. If Solomons doesn't start, he can always come off the bench, especially when you consider the amount of speed that he has. If Nkosimpile Ngcobo doesn't start, he can always come off the bench as well. So when you do have a look at it, gentlemen, I think this is a mouth-watering clash within the Dstv Premiership, especially considering then that both teams have the same record with regards to having both played 2 games. They've both won 1 and they've both lost 1. Coming up into this encounter, both teams will want to win this one. However, how I think this one plays out, ladies and gentlemen, I do think it will be a 1-1 draw at Loftus Versfeld. So, ladies and gentlemen, please do tell me at home, what do you make of this encounter between Mamelodi Sundowns and Kaizer Chiefs as they do take each other on in the DStv Premiership? Babize bonke! signing out.